hindsight is 2020. We all know this. We look to our past and we go, oh, we were dumb monkeys there. Should have done that. That was obvious, but I missed it. And football evaluations are always excellent in hindsight. But good evaluations project what could be in the future. And then when the future becomes the present, the closer they are to what the evaluation was and what the present is, the better the evaluation. Nobody gets it all right. It's nobody. So, but you want to get as close as you can in your evaluations and get better daily if you want to be accurate. Now, there's a lot of things that went down in this season, but there's a whole soup. But you got to look at the biggest eyesore and say, hey, if this is not fixed, then we're not going anywhere. And a lot of, these big media types, they started out with one evaluation and they've kind of moved to another evaluation, more close to reality, still reluctant. Chris Grier's total dismissal of reality kind of shook a lot of these people. Now, there's some out there that are doubling and tripling down. They refuse to admit it, but it's facts. It's reality. And I'm going to show you the reality, the absolute fundamentally true facts. You can't deny it. You might want to. I don't like it. I made some evaluations, but I'm not happy. I want my Dolphins to win. And we were so close. We saw it when it was building and the hope was starting to become reality. And then all of a sudden, pulled out, disappeared before our eyes. But you can't put your hands over your eyes and hands over your ears and say, nah, and pretend like it doesn't exist. There are fundamental problems with this team going to 24. Unless they're corrected, don't get your hopes up. There's a whole soup of problems, but there is one fundamental problem. And I'm going to show you. Somebody put out unbelievable stat. And I can't get my eyes off it because it was brilliant. And it's so quick and clear. And then I'm going to fill it out so you can be clear and you won't get hoodwinked by the hope and the fantasy unless these things are changed. Now, Mark Twain once said, it's easier to fool people than convince them that they have been fooled. It's so hard to say, hey, you know what? I believe this lie. It was wrong. It's just very difficult. But that transition will allow you to be a better evaluator and come to a sober estimation of where your beloved team is. So right now, we have the longest streak of not winning a playoff game. I mean, you got, the Panthers, you've got the Jets. All these guys have won playoff games, but us. We are in the toilet bowl of real success. We're the number one guy at the bottom of the toilet bowl. And that's got to be a sobering fact unto itself. Just think about our beloved franchise, how esteemed we were. Camelot. And then we were still at the top of the food chain. We were one of the beloved franchises. Now we're in the toilet bowl, clearly. And will it change in 24 if this thing gets fixed? Now, I still see awesome people. I have no animus at all to people who still don't get it because it's a lot. But Chris Kaufman from 3 yards per carry. I'm a big fan of Al for 3 yards per carry. There's a little bit of bias there. I don't think they're the best. I argue with some of the stuff they say, but it's not about that. It's a good show. And Chris Kaufman took everything that I've been saying and distilled it down to one graph. And when you see this graph and you still say, no, that ain't a problem, then you're not here. You will be wrong. You will be disappointed until this gets fixed. It's not debatable. It's mind-blowing. Awesome job by Chris Kaufman. Take a look at this graph. True pass set percentage of OL snaps. Now, if you don't understand what true pass set evaluations or efficiency gradings or ratings are, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I didn't know at one point, and I know. But if you understand it and you still dismiss it, then you are being ignorant. This is a 9-year historical survey of every offensive line over those 9 years. And that red circle in the toilet is the Dolphins' true pass set grade from 2023. And we're the bottom by the long shot at like 27.79%. And then there's a little black dot above it, another little black dot above it. And those are the three worst of the worst. And then you start getting into the worst. This true pass set grade means you're not being helped with speed to throw so much. You know, you're being asked to block. They're not calling plays and creating scheme protection, play call protection. This is just you blocking. How good are you? I've been saying a lot of stuff, and I can just give you hours of information, or I can tell you that our true ability to block is the worst in 9 years by a mile. And this grade is even worse than that when you realize this was the easiest job in the NFL, and likely, I'd say almost 100%, the easiest job in 9 years because we threw the ball so fast. Time, as it rises on its arc, ticks on, it makes the protection harder. The quicker the throw, the easier to protect. So we had the worst true pass set grading in 9 years with the easiest job in 9 years. That's a compounding negative, saying we are really worse than that. And when you understand that, it doesn't absolve McDaniel, doesn't absolve Tua, but you're saying that the most critical unit in the game, offensive line makes the NFL world go round, quoted here, is the worst of the worst of the worst by a, geometric mile. And that they should still make hay. It's mitigating factors. It's clear context. And you can't deny those facts. It's brutal truth. And then when you hear Grier and you see the host of evaluations, it was easy to believe it. I understand that as a fan and some media guys. We all make mistakes. But when you see that and you understand how quick we threw, you cannot say, oh, poo, it wasn't anything. It would be like, whoo, crazy. Now, I'm going to get into other things to cement this concept, but I want you to take a look at this little video I created. Hope you enjoy. The level of hype around this offensive line has been almost comical. I can't hear you, Leroy. I know the offensive line really well because I just follow basic stuff. If you have an offensive lineman who struggles against power, he doesn't have to be huge. He can have good technique, but however you slice it, he's got to be able to handle power. Who is the master? If he cannot handle power, then he's going to lose in the run game, and he's going to struggle in bull rush, and that's going to hurt you in the pass rush. It's a key. I don't care how athletic you are. If you don't have the ability to handle power, you will compromise the offense. And we have Eichenberg and Cotton, they're all the same guy. All three of them the same. They struggle with power. They get their...
There is one place that you have not looked, and it is there. Only there that you shall find the master.
Four stringers, you'll see two. There are only 2 starters on here, and if Tehran's in, 3 starters. That's it. How do you have 3 out of 5? Was it 2 out of 3 in bed with Meatloaf? 3 out of 5 is bad. You need 4 out of 5, and 1 guy to be average to have success. But this is going to be a disaster. Not good. And ask yourself, it's the same thing we saw with Flores, the same thing we saw with Days, it's the same thing we saw for a long time, this piecemeal, semi-garbage offensive line. And we got a lot of talent on defense. We got Fangio, we got unbelievable talent on the edge. And I do believe that too is a guy who can accentuate things. But man, this is the same. If this flops, if this offense flops, you've got to go directly to the doorstep of Chris Grier. And I don't see how any Dolphin fan can look at this mess and say we're in a good spot.
Who's the one and only master? I
This season will come down to the offensive line, and I just pray that the Dolphin faithful look at the season and don't focus on defense, just focus on this offensive line. If it passes the test, they're geniuses, utter geniuses. But if not, there can be no more excuses for the incompetency of this. So I had a series of evaluations. They were quite contrary. I took the opposite side of the trade pretty starkly. I heard a lot of stuff, but here we are. And when you see Chris Kaufman's image and all the stuff I covered this season and last and the season before, you'll understand that it's not debatable. My thesis was correct. And I'm going to dial into it a little bit more. True pass set grades. When you pay a guy or you have a guy, you want him obviously to be protected by the scheme, by the formation, by the calls. There's so many ways to protect an offensive line. But as you protect, you draw assets from your offense and it curtails it. It makes it conservative, makes it predictable. So you don't want your true pass set grades to be poor. Now, Austin Jackson, I'm sorry, Austin Jackson. How many people said he was Pro Bowl? They would look at his pressures and look at his sacks. But his true pass set grade was 50.2, which was 88th in the NFL. You're paying him almost $11 million or $12 million, I can't remember, 11, 12, and he is really the 88th best tackle in the league. Now, if you were to go to 64th, you take the 32 on the left and 32 on the right, and you go past that, it's 59.7, almost 10% better. That's how bad it is. And if you want to say, then then there's no hope. Then you're not dealing in reality. So there should be no, I'm sorry, Austin Jackson. Good kid, but he's got a long way to go, guys. He's got to go 10% just to get to the 64th, which is the worst of all starting tackles. But he's being paid like top 10 or something. But it'll drop a little bit. Eichenberg. I'm sorry, Eichenberg. Remember that? You know how many people told me I was a bad guy? And probably a lot of you out there, you're a bad guy. Eichenberg is so good. So good. Centers. There's 32 in the league. He's ranked 47th in his true pass set grade. 47th out of 32. And really, once you get to 20, it's bad. It's bad. I remember calling the Dolphins 2021 offense of line the 45th best offensive line in football. Eichenberg's gone past that. His true pass set grade is 26.9. The 15th best center in the league is 63.7. 3 times better. I'm sorry, Eichenberg, maybe not. Now, Armstead, he had a 68 grade, and he was 35th. So 20% better was Armstead over Jackson. And he was gutted with injuries. But all these guys, remember, had the fastest throwing game in the league, and they had the easiest job. And so this was not a good season for Tehran, considering the injuries and all that. Yes, but you have to always add context. Now, Wynn is so good, he's Pro Bowl. 50.4, the 53rd. Now, 53rd is not good. Cotton. We went into the season with Cotton as a critical piece. 89th true pass set protection grade. Hunt, the guy we're going to probably say goodbye to because he's going to get a big contract that we can't afford. And I'm going to get into the money part because we lost money. We're not going up, we're going down. And we haven't even got into things. I'll get into that in a second. Cotton. Hunt, 6th best in the league, 73.3. You don't think he's getting paid 18, 19 million? Think we're going to be able to afford? Just think about this offensive line that you saw. Take a look at the image again. And you're losing Hunt and Connor. And you got 24 on your mind? Smythe. External blockers, your secondary blockers are absolutely critical. I said tight end over and over and over again in the draft. We passed on all of them. There were guys that are available. I'm not going to get into it. But they're critical, and you could see through the playoffs how critical these tight ends are. Now, Smythe, he was third best in the league in pass blocking, 78 grade. This was a huge, huge asset. And if you took him out, we might have gone even lower than that. But the problem is we need to run the football. He was ranked 100th in his run blocking. So he was a stellar pass blocker and one of the worst run blockers. And that's our number one guy, who's not really even a pass catcher. You made fun of Gesicki. I mean, he couldn't pass block, but at least he could catch some footballs and did actually a better job run blocking. So we have to be honest with the situation. You got Eichenberg, 47th best true pass set center in the league. You can't move him to guard. He's too weak. Cotton, 89th. Jackson, 88th. And Tehran, who's going to be hurt next year. He's going to do good, but he's not what he was. And I don't know if he's going to be what he was next year either. This is your offensive line, the most critical unit in the game. So there's no way that you can tell me that you're a good evaluator if you're not starting off any kind of grade on McDaniel and Tua with this, because this is the elephant in a room, a whole herd of pink elephants with sparks shooting out there behind. And then if you're turning and looking in the corner and looking at the drunk in the corner going, that's a problem, then you're not really serious in trying to evaluate, which is fine. It's football. It's not changing the world or anything like that. But this is absolutely a disaster. And when Grier goes, well, you know, the bumps and bruises, I think they're pretty good. This is all a snow job. This is a suit hustle. Remember, he had a pretty cool season. Poor McDaniel. What? So do you think McDaniel and Smith and Butch Barry and I forgot your guy's name from last year, they all want these guys? No, they don't. They're being strapped with these guys because they are not in control. But we'll talk about that in a second. Guys, you can see here, I'm doing Twitter, Curtis at Fins News 1. Help me get this thing up and running. Trying to do that, just trying to be a better voice for you guys, get your voice out there. I know a lot of you, we're all simpatico, so I'm trying to do the right thing, and I know it's critical. I hate doing it, but you got to do it in this day and age, so help me out with that. I'm going to do the live on Friday, 10 p.m. Meet me there. If you want to come on a show, You can send me information, Curtis at aceperhead.com. And I'll put your information up there, put your statements up there. You want to come on, however you want to do it. That show is for all of us. It's a community, so come on to that. But now, guys, the likes, the subscribes, the comments, the views, all that stuff keeps Curtis in business. If you like what I'm doing, please help me out with that. So I want to give you a shout out to Ace Per Head, because without the two of you, this show ain't going down. Ace Per Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. All right, so we were 41 million. Now we're at 52, negative 52 million with 46 players on the roster. I'm not going to do it here, but the next podcast, I'm going to break down that roster, and you're going to see how scary that is. Because you need the 53 and more. You need your practice squad, and you go past that, we'll come camp and all this. But out of that 46 and a minus 52 million, what is the core? And I'm going to break it down. I'm going to show you how concerning that is with everything in there. But that's got to be a whole podcast to itself because it's a big thing. But when you add in the offensive line, the little bit of money we have, the few picks we have, we get the first and second, but nothing to the sixth. It is going to make 24 absolutely a very, very high hill to climb. And so when the hype factor 5, Hopium pimps start pushing the hope train and you get on board and then you get let down, it's really on you at this stage because it's so obvious. We can still do it, but you got to see certain milestones crossed in certain areas and be realistic, or you're just going to get on the train and get let down. Dueno430 pointed out Dave Hyde and Perkins' show and said, hey, check this out with Fangio. And I did. And there was some interesting stuff there. Now, I saw this one. Fangio will return as defensive coordinator, according to X statement by Benjamin Albright, a Broncos reporter for KOA Colorado, who has reported extensively on Fangio in the past. So he's going to be back, but that does not mean something is not afoot, okay? Because, Hyde mentioned that, Fangio hasn't been getting spoken to and being part of the talent acquisition process. Now, he saw Van Ginkel, and he's the guy who brought him in. He brought, a bunch of the guys from the Broncos in here early on. And so, Grier was working with him early. But something happened from that point where he hasn't been asked. They asked him about JPP. He's like, no, I'm not watching film. They just show up. Sometimes they just show up and I don't even know they're coming. That's really weird. And you got to wonder why. I don't know. It doesn't make sense how a guy who changed the NFL, you're not involved with him. It's a little bizarre. It's a little arrogant. But there's feuds here. Remember, Chris Grier is the guy who cut Van Noy to spite Flores, who shipped Eric Flowers out with a bad offensive line, who was our best offensive lineman, took a huge cap hit for like a 7th-round pick or something. So he is not Mr. Nice Guy that they're pretending. He is an assassin, which is fine if you're honorable and you're doing the right thing. But he has a streak in him that if you cross him, he's going to stick it to you. Now, Cam Smith not starting. He loves his picks. He loves his players starting. There was a huge issue in New England when his father was there about guys not starting, and it became a big problem. There was a big breakup between coach and GM because of that. And you could see Flores, they had that issue, whoever was, but there was an issue. And now you get Eichenberg and Jackson being forced in. Cam is not even like part of the program. So it could very easily be that Fangio and Grier are not getting along. There is something weird. How do you not say he's definitely coming back, and how do you not consult them? I don't know what the whole deal is, but it's pretty odd. Now, I want to thank Dueno for that. Put me on a little tangent there. Now, take a look at this. Sean Williams, according to Hyde, and just like a little statement I meant to put in, who asked Fangio about defensive additions. Vic wasn't consulted on player additions, and it went so far that he didn't know about new players until after they were added, including JPP, 3 playoff adds, and others. He wasn't involved in working, and I've got to show the rest of it, but basically working out players and, hey, this guy fits me and whatever. That is bizarre. That is not normal for a guy of Fangio's status and a GM who is in line with them. Fangio seems to be an island unto himself, and McDaniel and Grier are in another island, and the rivers don't meet. That's what it seems like. So last part here, just want to show you some stuff to add on to the beginning, and then I'll be done. Run stats. Up the middle, 12th least in the league. Left guard, 4th least in the league. Left tackle, 4th least in the league. Left end, 2nd most. Right end, 1st most. Right tackle, 9th least. Right guard, 2nd least. Number 1 in the league with rushing yards, but it was all finesse stuff on the edge with pop runs, no consistency, no ability to drive inside and get those first downs. We were 2nd least in conversions and 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. I've said this before, but I want to kind of nail that into the first part. And in the last part, because I did this in the live and sometimes people don't see it, this was our protection grades. Eichenberg, true pass set protection grade, 39. Austin Jackson, 42. And that is your future. We were blitzed 11 times, clean time to throw, 2.29, which makes your job hugely easy. And the blitz time, 2.27, 28 pressure. That means we couldn't pick up the blitz. We sucked in true pass set protection. And this means if we're not dialing in the play actions and doing these quick plays with a bunch of guys in the box or whatever, and these screens, the pressure comes in here. Tua knows it. McDaniel knows it. Grier doesn't know it. But we need to know it. Savvy? So that's really it, guys. You got to stay on this offensive line because if it doesn't get fixed, and I'm going to get into it, you can do some stuff. There's 2 or 3 moves we could have made over the last 2 or 3 years. It would have been so cheap to fix this thing. But Grier, for some reason, hasn't. I don't know whether he's reluctant or incapable. But this is the key, guys. So I hope you enjoyed. Curtis saying, catch you next time. Be well. Go Fins. Start building your own online sportsbook today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.